because what was happening was he was getting into the zone and he was trying to yank and pull so hard to create to create bat speed, to hit a ball hard, that anything that wasn't immediately in that zone, middle in, thigh high, or a little bit around there, he really struggled to hit early in the year.
Welcome to another episode of the Cornerstone Coaching Academy podcast, where you will get expert, practical baseball coaching advice you can take directly to your next practice. Let's get started. Here's your host, Coach Kyle Nelson.
All right, coaches, welcome back to another episode of the Cornerstone Coaching Academy podcast. I'm your host, Coach Kyle Nelson. Welcome to our show today on 8 ways that you can have your team playing their best baseball at the end of next season. So I know that we are deep into the planning phase for a lot of people, getting ready for fall ball, looking at some of the things we can do in the winter to improve our team maybe, and then maybe having some philosophy changes as well along the way. And so these 8 things, some of them are things that are philosophy changes, and some of them are things that you can actually implement in your program to help them kind of build towards the end of the season instead of peak early in the season. Since for a lot of us, high school coaches, college coaches, a lot of our most important games are in fact at the end of the season. We want to make sure that our players are strong, fresh, and ready to go for those games. For those of you who are new listeners to the podcast, what you're going to get is about 15 to 20, maybe 25 minutes of a really specific, actionable topic that you can take back to your team, to your program, to your travel ball team, and improve them right away in your next practice. Implement a new philosophy, implement a new drill, something like that. That's what we're trying to do for you, is to give you some really actionable things that you can take back immediately. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play. I also put all of the episodes up on YouTube and Vimeo as well, so you can subscribe to us there and get all of our content and all of our podcast episodes regardless of your medium of choice for taking in podcasts. You can also go to our blog, cornerstonecoachingacademy.com/blog, where you can find articles about just about any aspect of the game. Also, all of our podcast episodes with the show notes go up there too. And for those of you that are really, really interested in improving your team, your program next season, you can check out Cornerstone Elite. It is where we put all of our outstanding resources, all of our practice plans, all of our drills, including our 47 chaos hitting drills that help translate from practice into game performance. So you can check that out by going to www.cornerstonecoachingacademy.com/cornerstone-elite. Let's go ahead and get into our topic today, which is actually going to be the problem with selling out for exit velocity. If you are interested in the show notes today, I will leave 5 chaos hitting drills for you over at www.cornerstonecoachingacademy.com/182, or if you're on an iPhone in the iTunes app, you can click the link for the 5 chaos hitting drills. I will also leave episode links over there to our hitting pyramid, so you can get a little bit more in-depth information on the topic I'm going to cover kind of briefly today. And then you can also go into our updated hitting pyramid and get a little bit more information that way. So again, the problem I have with selling out for exit velocity is that I have found that it makes a not very adaptable swing. Probably should mention a little bit about our specific coaching situation in Illinois, as it gives you a little bit more background as to why some of this has crept up in our program. So in Illinois, unfortunately, we have like a dead period with our players, which is most of the school year. So the school year starts and we have a dead period. We can do, strength and conditioning, things like that. We can hold open gyms where we don't coach players, but we cannot actually coach players during the off season. So from the time school starts until about the end of February, I'm not working with our players. I'm not in there, actually watching them hit, coaching them, things like that. So that requires them to go out on their own and get private instruction, or they're working out with their summer ball team or something along those lines. And we do have a lot of guys who go to some really, really good instructors, and they come in and they are very, very well balanced hitters. But one of the things I've found is that we have been struggling, especially with the group that we had this year, with guys selling out for exit velocity. And what we found was it created a really, really heavy upper half pull swing, meaning that they're trying to pull and yank everything with their front or lead arm, and they weren't very adaptable, so they weren't really able to hit pitches on the outside corner very hard, or they were really susceptible to breaking balls. The other thing we found that was they were really susceptible to pitches up in the zone. I think it's because they had always had the same shoulder tilt for just about every pitch, that they had never really thought about changing shoulder tilt based on the height of the incoming pitch. And so they were dropping to one level, they're tilting their shoulders to one level, making them very, very susceptible to the fastball up. And I do think that that is something, kind of a side note, that has become more and more common as players are trying to hit the ball in the air a little bit more, that they're dipping that back shoulder, creating a little more shoulder tilt to get that upward path of the ball. And it has made them a little bit more susceptible in general to pitches up in the zone. I know that our pitching staff in particular had a lot of success last year throwing pitches at the belt and above the belt, whereas common wisdom used to be to keep the ball down. I think that might be changing a little bit because of some of the changes that we're seeing in the way the swing is taught. So anyways, back to the selling out for exit velocity. I do think that the ability to generate a lot of bat speed is always a good thing. I say bat speed's like money, right? The guy who has $1 million wants $2 million. The guy who has $5 million wants $10 million. The guy who has $100 wants $400. You can never have enough money. People always want more money. I shouldn't say enough, I should say too much. People always want more money. It's kind of like bat speed, right? So I don't have a problem with guys' goal being to be able to generate a lot of bat speed and to be able to hit the ball hard. The issue I have is when we're not training them in a way that makes them have an adaptable swing so that they can not only hit pitches that are easy to hit hard, or off of a tee, or off a front toss, or even off of a machine, but that they're able to hit a variety of different pitches hard after making a decision. Now, I do think that going through bat speed training so that you raise the general level and the general ability to create bat speed and hit the ball hard is a good thing. You've seen some research now that says that our most productive bat speed zone is around 90% of our max bat speed. And so I did think that that was good to see, because our players had a drop that was kind of similar to that, from, just kind of like here's a fastball, how much bat speed can you generate when we're using blast, to here's something that's going to be a little bit challenging. But what I noticed was that there was a larger drop in players who could generate a lot of bat speed, but they struggled to hit in games. There was a larger drop in bat speed with them than there was in other players. And I think a lot of that is because they had not trained much adaptability into their swing. So I'll give you a couple things that I like to do with those players in order to kind of help them train a little bit of that adaptability. One of the things we did was we took some PVC pipes and we just simply laid them down in front of the plate. So we had one player, really strong kid, actually had a really successful year, learned to adapt, hit the ball middle, hit the ball away when he needed to towards the middle and end of the season, had a great year, and when you threw it in his zone, he absolutely crushed it. But one of the things we did with him was we took two PVC pipes. We laid one from the front of the plate directly back to the pitcher, and we laid one from that same point off towards right center field. And that just kind of gave him a visual of trying to stay longer through the zone a little bit, because what was happening was he was getting into the zone and he was trying to yank and pull so hard to create a lot, to create bat speed, to hit a ball hard, that anything that wasn't immediately in that zone, middle in, thigh high, or a little bit around there, he really struggled to hit early in the year. So we did that to give him that visual, and that seemed to work really well for him. He was able to hit more balls up the middle. He was able to hit more balls to right center field. And if you'd have seen him swinging and hitting balls early on in the season, that was the one thing you looked at and you said, man, if he can hit the ball middle and if he can hit the ball way hard, like he's pulling the ball, he's going to have a lot of success. And he did learn to do that. One of the other things that we did, and we didn't do this too much this past season, mostly because we were struggling a little bit with pitch recognition. So we spent a lot of time with our pitch recognition drills. And if you are an elite member, you can go into our chaos hitting drills and you can check out all of our pitch recognition drills in there. Also, if you go into the course that is recognizing, diagnosing, and fixing common hitting flaws, you'll be able to see them in there as well. Some of the things we did to help with our pitch selection and timing was another big thing that we worked on a lot this past year. But because we struggled a little bit with pitch recognition, I didn't love this drill for a lot of our players last year, but we did it early on and then we did it a little bit later in the year. And it was a no-take batting practice round. We only threw fastballs in this round. I didn't throw any breaking balls, but my goal was to try to throw pitches into all nine of the sections of the zone, if you will. If you imagine, 3 sections on top, 3 sections in the middle, and 3 sections on the bottom. And I tried to mix up where I was throwing the ball in those zones. One of the reasons I like this for creating adaptability in the swing is that it forces them to swing at pitches that they might not swing at in a normal batting practice session. And then when they get into the games, they're going to have to swing at some of those pitches when they have 2 strikes, and they've never tried to hit maybe a ball that's low and away at their knees, or they haven't done it very often. And so the other thing that you could do in that scenario, because again, the number one thing at the bottom of my hitting pyramid, and again, that's linked in the show notes here, it's pitch recognition and plan, and the very next thing is bat speed. And so I do believe in bat speed and hitting the ball hard, but I believe you have to be able to do that to a variety of different pitches, not just one that's on a tee and not just one that's front tossed to you. And so what we did with this was we set up our Rapsodo hitting unit, and that gave guys incentive to try to feel what it was like to hit a ball hard to the opposite field. In a normal batting practice session, they may not swing at that pitch. That pitch that's on the outside edge, if we're doing a 1-1 count or an 0-0 count or something like that, they may not swing at that pitch. But in the no-take batting practice one, they're required to swing at it, which forces them to at least have that feel in their body of what are they trying to do, how are they trying to get to that pitch to hit it hard. When they roll over it, we can have a discussion about that. When they flare it, we can have a discussion about that. When they hit it hard, they get good feedback on what it's like, and then they see the actual feedback using the Rapsodo unit. If you don't have one of those, you can certainly either, if you did this on a field, I think that would give it a little better of an idea than if you did it in the cage, if you don't have a means of measuring exit velocity, because on the field, you can see a ball that's flared. You can see a ball that's not hit very hard, whereas in a cage sometimes it travels 7 feet into the net, and you don't know if it was hit hard or not. You don't know if they got it off the end. You don't know if they squared it up. But on the field, you get a little bit better of an idea. So doing that on the field, I think, would be a good idea. If you do have a pocket radar, you can use that too. It's not terribly accurate from what we've seen for balls that are not hit more directly down the line of the radar, but it'll still give you a little bit of an idea of what they're doing, and also give them the idea simply that they want to hit the ball hard, even if it's something that's on the outer third or if it's something that's up and in, that we're trying to hit the ball hard. So I'm not, I didn't do this podcast to rail against exit velocity. Hitting the ball hard is one of the most important, if not the most important thing that you can do. But the ability to hit the ball hard, a variety of different balls hard, is even more valuable than just the ability to hit a ball hard sitting on a tee or to hit a ball hard in an easy zone for you to hit off a front toss. So I hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. We will be back next week with another great episode of the Cornerstone Coaching Academy podcast. Have a wonderful week and never stop learning.
Thanks for listening to the Cornerstone Coaching Academy podcast. If you liked what you heard here and you're looking to take your team, your program, and your coaching career to the next level, there is no better resource than a Cornerstone Elite membership. Get everything you need to run an amateur team, including dozens of drills, games, practice plans, e-courses, and much more, right at your fingertips, wherever you have an internet connection. Check it out today at cornerstonecoachingacademy.com/cornerstone-elite. We will be back next week with another great episode on the Cornerstone Coaching Academy podcast.